Hello there, fellow truth seekers. This is Doug coming to you once again. I hope you folks have had a good week. I hope you've been blessed. And I want to give a shout out to one of my subscribers. He sent me some of these things that he made up for me here. I think he's kind of starting like a little hobby on the side, making stuff. And he sent me some little things he sent to me. This here with the Yod He Wah-He, Yahuwah. This is his, I guess, his little company or whatever. It's laser acquisitions, purpose by design. He made some of these little things like this. Is pretty cool. One of my little sayings is messed up, worse than a soup sandwich. It's pretty cool. And he made me this little thing here, Douglas Foster Truth Seeker. And then, because I'm always drinking Arizona tea, he made me this little plaque here. But shout out to you, brother, and I appreciate it. That's really nice, and I really thank you. But one of the things I want to, I told you in my last little message video that I was going to address these comments, the Gnostics. I mean, because that's what they are. They're Gnostics. And they want to purport that pretty much, like I said, these other people that do the same, that the Bible is nothing but a bunch of metaphors and similes, similitudes, and, figures of speech, that it's not literal. And of course, I'm going to read to you, of course, from the scriptures. As always, I'm going to use scripture. And supposedly, this guy here, Simon Magus, also known as Simon the Magician, Simon the Sorcerer, who was from Samaria. He was a Jew, and he's known for being the founder of Gnosticism. Okay, and he and there's you can go get there's books by the early church fathers like Irenaeus, Hippolytus, Epiphanius, Justin Martyr, and they call it this. They tell exactly what this guy is. Here in the book of Acts, chapter 8, verse 5, we can see here. I'm going to give you a preface on this stuff. But in chapter 5, Philip had went down, or chapter 8, verse 5. Philip had went down to Samaria, and he was baptizing people and getting people to repent and turn. And he was doing miracles, and he was casting out demons. But they're all a metaphor for the carnal mind, is what demons and devils and dragons and serpents, that's all just metaphors for the carnal mind. So how do you cast something out of your carnal mind? And these things, it says, for unclean spirits crying with loud voices came out of many that were possessed with them, and many taken with palsies and that were lame were healed. And there was great joy in the city. But there was a certain man called Simon, which before time in the same city used sorcery and bewitched the people of Samaria, giving out that himself was some great one. And the sorcerers here, I'm sure if you go look that up in the concordance, it's going to be pharmakia. He was probably using some kind of concoctions or something and giving it to people, and he was able to bewitch them. Okay, and it says, to whom they all gave heed, from the least to the greatest, saying, this man is the great power of God. And he even made statements about where he was God. I mean, he even claimed to be the Most High and claimed to be the Messiah. and he claimed to be the Ruach. I mean, he was claiming all of this at different points in his life. It says, to him they had regard because that of a long time he had bewitched them with sorceries. He was giving them some kind of, concoction, a drug or whatever, so that he could bewitch them. Same thing that we see there in Revelation, where they would not repent of their sorceries. But when they believed Philip concerning the things concerning the kingdom of God and the name of Yahushua, they were baptized, both men and women. Then Simon himself believed also. And when he was baptized, he continued with Philip and wondered, beholding the miracles and signs which were done. See, he wanted this power. He wanted this power is what he wanted. He didn't care about these people that were being healed and all that stuff and these demons cast out. No, what it was, he was just wanting another trick to go in his bag of wizardry. Now when the apostles which were at Jerusalem heard that Samaria had received the word of Elohim, they sent unto them Peter and John, who when they were come down prayed for them that they might receive the Ruach HaKodesh. Now they hadn't received it, they had just been baptized. And we know from, I think, like Acts 5, where they were baptized and they laid their hands on them and they received the Ruach HaKodesh. And it says, for as yet he was fallen upon none of them, only they were baptized in the name of Yahushua, Jesus. Then laid they their hands on them, and they received the Ruach. And when Simon saw that, through laying on of the apostles' hands, the Ruach HaKodesh was given, he offered them money, saying, give me also this power, that on whomsoever I lay hands he may receive the Ruach HaKodesh. But Peter said unto him, thy money perish with thee, because thou hast thought that the gift of Elohim may be purchased with money. Thou hast neither part nor lot in this matter, for thy heart is not right in the sight of Elohim. Repent therefore of this thy wickedness, and pray Elohim, if perhaps the thought of thine heart may be forgiven thee. For I perceive that thou art in the gall of bitterness and in the bond of iniquity. Then answered Simon and said, pray ye to Yahuwah that for me, that none of these things which ye have spoken come upon me. And so, here's this guy. He's already thinking that this is just something you can buy. And they called that kind of stuff simony, where you buy religious favors or whatever. In fact, they called it after him. And so, the reason I do the download these, I download these off of Wikipedia, because they're going to be basically the same thing you would read in Encyclopedia Britannica or in World Book or whatever. It's just a synopsis or an overview of what you would find if you went into a greater study, went and got books or something. But it gives you the gist of it, that he was the founder of Gnosticism, but I don't believe that. I believe that Gnosticism existed before. I believe that is the false religion, the false Christianity. And it stems from Babylon. And of course, there in Revelation chapter 12, we're going to look at that. Revelation chapter 13, I think. Might be chapter 12. Yes, chapter 12. This is where, wait a minute, I don't want to tell you wrong. Yeah, here it is. It's in chapter 17. I got something in chapter 12 and 13 too, but I'm going to read this. It says, starting at verse 3 of chapter 17, so he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet colored, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And of course it goes on to describe who this woman is and where she sits upon 7 hills, sits on many waters. Well, if you look at Italy, it's surrounded by water, and they're in Rome, 7 hills, city on 7 hills, and all that. But, and I've told this on here before on other studies, is that the religion that they have there, the harlot religion, began at Babel, in Babylon. That's why it says Mystery Babylon, because it's the same religion that goes all the way back to there. And again, if you understand the fall of Babel and the Table of Nations, when people were dispersed over the earth, and they took that religion with them, but it got morphed and twisted and changed in each one of them over time. So you had Hinduism, and they say the Vedas is the oldest religious text in the world, and it's probably the same stuff that they carried from over there at Babel, which would make it some of the oldest religious writings in the world. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But afterwards, it was, afterwards that, Elohim allowed all these ones to go get established and start their religions and, make up their religious doctrine and their religious books. And then once it's all said and done, he comes and he gets a man, leads him over there to Canaan, and makes a nation from him. They go into captivity over in Egypt, become slaves, and then they build, grow into a great people. And then he leads them out, and he uses a man, Moses, to put down in writing the true story, the way that it really happened. And he began to move on men, prophets and different ones, to write these books down over time. Some are historical books, some are prophetic books, some are romantic books, some are poetic books, and there is, and I've acknowledged this, there is metaphors, there are similes, there is figures of speech, but it's really obvious when it is, and it is basically telling you of something that is true, that is, it's just giving you an example of something to explain something else that a person, can relate to. They can say, oh, well, yeah, I know what that is, and that's all. Because it may be explaining something that if you just said it as it was, they wouldn't understand it. You'd have to show them through an analogy, just like the parables that Christ gave to his disciples. Well, they didn't understand what the parables meant, so he had to, the kingdom of heaven is likened to a pearl of great value. When a man find it, he goes and sells all that he has to purchase the land that it's on, so that he might get this pearl of great value. Well, because they couldn't understand the kingdom of heaven and all that. I mean, so he just likened it to, how precious it was and how valuable, and that we should seek it. But that's, it's obvious that that's what he's trying to convey. But, like Peter said there, that about people twisting the scriptures, like twisting the words of Paul to their own destruction. They twist this to meet their own destruction, and I've got scriptures to go along with some of that too, where because I want to try to set a preface here, and some of them is like I got so much stuff here about not listening to these people. I mean, but here this Mystery Babylon the Great started there in Babel. Went to Medo-Persia, from Medo-Persia to Greece, and from Greece to Rome. It moved around as powers came and went. but the same Mystery Babylon religion, and I believe that is Gnosticism. Because when you look at a lot of these religions like Hinduism, Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, and Zoroastrianism, Catholicism, Judaism, when you look Islam, when you look at all of these, they all have aspects of Gnosticism in them. And that's why, when you see these bumper stickers that say coexist, and you got all these different religious symbols on there for them different religions, coexist, well, that's how they're going to be able to coexist. Is because they all have little tenets of the same doctrine that they're teaching. That's why this is the false Christianity. And it's spread to Protestantism. I mean, Protestant churches are just lapping it up. And of course, the Messiah said, that these, and Paul did too, these people having itching ears, seeking teachers that are going to tell them what they want to hear, and giving them all this mysticism and this secret. Oh, we got secret knowledge, like what do they call them? The Hebrew roots people that are buying into the same stuff. And then, there was somebody talking about, Yaldabaoth, that is the creator, the evil, the one that created the earth and all that, I even got something on him. And look at this. This is the symbol of this guy. It's a serpent going around it. And, sometimes he's depicted with a lion head. And he's also thought to be hermaphroditic, more androgynous. Okay, well, let me show you another little androgynous little old entity here called Baphomet. Same thing. And when you go to looking at the all the different mystery schools, and the people that subscribe to this, that had roots in Gnosticism as well, like the Kabbalah, they had that. People like Madame Blavatsky, Albert Pike, Aleister Crowley, and Thelema and all that stuff. They had aspects of that stuff right there, just like Gnosticism does. And this Yaldabaoth was supposed to be Yahuwah. The malevolent God that created the physical world, and he's the child of darkness, an element of chaos that created the physical world, and then he's created by he's called a demiurge, creator of the material world in various Gnostic sects and movements. Sometimes represented as the theriomorphic lion-headed serpent. He is identified as the false god who keeps the souls trapped in physical bodies, imprisoned in the material universe. Well, that's saying that it's Yahuwah, okay, or the Messiah. Because in the Gospel according to John, we're going to look here at the Gospel according to John, chapter 1, verses 1 through 14. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. The same was in the beginning with Elohim. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. Now this is talking about the Word. Okay. And the light shineth, and in him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. There was a man sent from Elohim, whose name was John. The same came for a witness, to bear witness of the light. Okay, so talking about John the Baptist, the last Old Testament prophet. That all men through him might believe. He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. In other words, John was not the light, but he was sent to bear witness of that light. That was the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. But as many received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of Elohim, even to them that believe on his name, which were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of Elohim. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. So there's your Creator right there. So you're going to say that Yaldabaoth, this lion-headed serpent, is the one that created the world, the physical world, and deny the deity of the Mashiach? Because that's what you're doing. You're denying this. And you know, this is the book here that the book of John, the Gospel of John, is the book that describes Christ's deity. Okay, and then you got the Hebrew side of it, the Judaism. You got Ein Sof, who is basically, his name means unknowable, unpronounceable, unknowable. But here it says this is from the Zohar. The Zohar explains the term Ein Sof as follows: before he gave any shape to the world, before he produced any form, he was alone, without form and without resemblance to anything else. Who then can comprehend how he was before the creation? Hence it is forbidden to lend him any form or similitude, or even to call him by his sacred name, or to indicate him by a single letter or a single point. But after he created the form of the heavenly man, he used him as a chariot wherein to descend. And he wishes to be called after his form, which is the sacred name Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, or as I say, Yahuwah. But he makes it clear in Isaiah that that's his name forever, and that there is no other beside him. Okay? But it's nothing about no Ein Sof. You know, you could say that that is Elohim, the spirit of Elohim. I mean, they calling it Ein Sof here, but it says, in other words, Ein Sof signifies the nameless being. In another passage, the Zohar reduces the term to Ein, non-existent, because Elohim so transcends human understanding as to be practically non-existent. And, you know, the sacred name, there's a sacred name movement and all that stuff. But you can see that this here, the Zohar, goes back. I read a little bit about that too. Of course, there's different elements of Judaism. I mean, there's a Hasidic, there's a Seditic, there are the Zionists, the Ashkenazis. I mean, there's a bunch of different groups there, and they all are kind of at odds with each other over what they, some of them just, some that are, they go by the Torah, the Tanakh. But a lot of them have gone over to the Kabbalah and the Zohar and stuff like that. And of course, these things, that Kabbalah has its roots back to Babylon, because you got to remember they were in captivity over there under the Babylonians, and then whenever they got, the Medo-Persians defeated the Babylonians, and they had, their religion was Zoroastrianism, and so that's what their religion was, and so they started mixing this in. And when you look there, I think it's in Ezekiel where he had a vision, and he saw these things that were going on in the temple in there by the priest and all, and then then Yahuwah said, "Come, and I will show you even greater abominations." And what did he show them? He showed these priests standing out there on the porch before the Holy of Holies, and they were looking to the east. They were looking at the sun, and they were worshiping it. And when you go to looking at this here, like I say, this Baphomet, this androgynous entity that they equate to Lucifer or Hallel, this depiction that's on here, this depiction right here, was drawn by Eliphas Levi. He was, being his name's Levi, I'd say he's probably from the Levites. So he was, but this guy was, when you read about him, he was really, really wicked. Really wicked. And he was doing all that kind of transubstantiation, turning wine into blood and bread into meat. Same kind of stuff goes on in Catholicism. That's what I'm trying to, get across here, is that all of these things are all interconnected. You can be claiming, okay, I'm a Freemason, I'm a Gnostic, I'm a Judaism or whatever. You can, or Kabbalah, or I'm a Satanist, or I'm a Luciferian. But when you get down to the bottom line, they all are. And of course I say, and I've heard this said, the greatest deception that Satan has ever pulled is to convince the world that he does not exist. And that's exactly what this person is saying, is that there is no boogeyman. But that's not what the scripture says. I don't know where they're getting at. Because all through there, it's describing them, and I've gone back and looked at what they are called, what it's called, in the Nakash, the serpent. There's 3 different definitions of that. One is a snake, one is a seraph, and the other one is a Nakash, which is a serpent deity. Okay? And then a seraph is a fiery serpent, a seraphim. So I'm going to bring some of these out. I'm going to get I got my strongest concordance here. And 5175. Let me go back here a little bit. I'm in the Greek, because I'm going to show you in the Greek too. Here we go. 5175, which is This is in Genesis chapter 3. The serpent that beguiled Eve. It was the carnal mind that beguiled Eve. It wasn't a serpent or a seraphim. Or a serpent, but it says Nahash, snake, serpent, by extension, a mythological creature of chaos, opposed to Elohim. Opposed to Elohim. That is that right there. Yaldabaoth. Okay. Okay, and then you've got 8577. $85.77. Tanin. Serpent, snake, monster of the deep. Can refer to a large sea creature, as well as to mythological monsters of chaos, opposed to God. Dragons, serpent. Other words, Leviathan. Okay, and you can go to Job 38 and read, or Job 41:1 and read about Leviathan. It's described as a dragon, and these Leviathans were, when you read on in like Psalms, Isaiah, they're entities, thinking, doing entities. Okay, and then you have 83:14. Which is back here, 83:14. Seraph, venomous snake, seraph, six-winged being, fiery serpent, seraphims. And that's what a seraphim is, six-winged, serpent-like being. The Satans. And of course, I read this to you last week, or the week before last. I'm going to look in here again because now this is in the book of Enoch. If you don't stay right on in here, it will. It went right back to it. Good. It says the names and functions of the fallen angels and Satans. Okay. And of course it gives you the names of those fallen angels that were deceived by these Satans. All right. The name of the first one is Yaquan. That is the one who led astray all the sons of God, and brought them down to the earth, and led them astray through the daughters of men. And the second was named Asbiel. He imparted to the holy sons of God evil counsel. In other words, those watchers, the ones that are right up above there, Samjaza and Azazel and all them, he gave them evil counsel and led them astray, so that they defiled their bodies with the daughters of men. And the third was named Gadriel. He it is who showed the children of men all the blows of death, and he led Eve astray and showed the weapons of death to the sons of men, the shield and the coat of mail and the sword of battle. And then you got these other ones over here. The fourth was Penumiu. He taught the children of men the bitter and the sweet. And then, you have, Tabiet, Kosdeja was the fifth. And then Cosbiel, And I mean, so these are, named entities, and it says this angel requested Michael to show him the hidden name. I mean, but you can see, I mean, so is Michael a metaphor? Is Gabriel a metaphor? Uriel, Phanuel, Raphael, these archangels, the one that came to Daniel in chapter 11 of Daniel, or Michael, and I'm going to show you this, I'm going to, I've read this before, about this here, the Word of God, then you got they're about Simon Magnus, but you can go over here to the book of Jude, and it says, and this is just one little book, one little chapter book. This is and this is these people that are coming in, telling you this stuff. For there were certain men crept in unawares, who were before of old ordained to this condemnation, ungodly men, turning the grace of our Elohim into lasciviousness, and denying the only Yahuwah Elohim and our Adon, Yahushua HaMashiach. I will therefore put you in remembrance, though ye once knew this, how that Yahuwah, having saved the people out of the land of Egypt, afterward destroyed them that believed not. And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day. Even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. Likewise, all these filthy dreamers defile the flesh, despise dominion, and speak evil of dignitaries. Yet Michael, the archangel, when contending with the devil, who he disputed about the body of Moses, durst not bring against him a railing accusation, but said, Yahuwah rebuke you. But these speak evil of those things which they know not, but what they know naturally as brute beast. In those things they corrupt themselves. Woe unto them, for they have gone in the way of Cain, and ran greedily after the error of Balaam for reward, and perished in the gainsaying of Kor. These are spots in your feast of charity, when they feast with you, feeding themselves without fear. Clouds they are without water, carried about of winds, trees whose fruit withereth without fruit, twice dead, plucked up by the roots, raging waves of the sea, foaming out their own shame, wandering stars to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. And these wandering stars are the planets, the planets that they worshipped. They worshipped the host of heaven, the stars, the luminaries, the planets, the sun, the moon. And that is a lot of what they, it says, and Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000s of his saints to execute judgment upon all, to convince all that are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds, which they have ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches, which ungodly sinners have spoken against him. These are murmurers, complainers, walking after their own lust, and their mouth speaking great, swelling words, having men's persons in admiration because of advantage. So, you know, the Enoch is, and he's quoting Enoch here in Jude. So it gives credibility to the book of Enoch. And these entities, you know, they're not carnal thoughts. Yeah, we got carnal minds if we're in the flesh. And that's what the Ruach HaKodesh is, you know, what the Messiah gave the Ruach to us for, was to cleanse that carnalness out of us, to root it out. But Paul, in Ephesians chapter 6, and I'm going to look here in Ephesians chapter 6, it says, "Put on the whole armor of Elohim, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places in heaven." And that high places is heavenly places. Okay? "Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of Elohim, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, having done all to stand. Stand, therefore, having your loins girt about with truth." And, you know, it is not, you know, this is the part of their Gnostic belief is the duality of the mind. That there is no good and there is no real evil, that's all the, let's see, what did I have written down here? The two powers of the mind. You know, and that it's just the carnal mind, and we create these boogeymen, to explain away the carnalness of our minds. That it's like Flip Wilson used to say, the devil made me do it. But that really just wanted to do it itself. And that's true. We do have that nature to want to do good, evil, or carnally. But there's also an aspect of our minds that wants to do right. I mean, Paul talks about it in the book of Romans, about how our bodies war against our minds. You know, that he said, those things which I would not do, that I do, and those things which I would do, I do not. You know, because there's this battle going on, but you have influences that are trying to influence you from outside, these powers of darkness, these principalities. And it's not just talking about this here where it says spiritual wickedness in high places. It ain't talking about here on the earth. That high places is heavenly places. So, it's not down here. It's up in the second heaven. And the other is, they wanted to discount what it says in Job about the devil, the dragon, the Nakash, what it says about it in there, the accuser, the devil, in Revelation chapter 12, verse 10. And that's where I was at earlier when I was at the wrong place there. But Revelation chapter 12, verse 10. Well, actually, we're going to go back up here a couple to verse 7. "And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our Elohim, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down." Also, our minds accuse us. Our carnal minds accuse us. I mean, the power of Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our Elohim day and night. And they overcome him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they love not their lives unto the death. So, this accuser that goes up there, he's up there accusing us day and night, that Johann, that is in there, what I just read there in the book of Enoch, is up there accusing us day and night. And these other ones are going around, they are, and they're named. They're named. It's not like they just call devil or, they actually have names. They are B'nai Ha-Elohim. And of course, in Job chapter 41, I'm going to go back here to Job. Job chapter 41, I think it is, verse 1. Let's see. Job 41, 1. This is talking about Leviathan, if you want to read that. But that says, can thou draw out Leviathan with an hook? It says, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down. I mean, it describes this thing, and it's described as a dragon. It says right here, it says, talks about, it says, or is so near, it says, his scales are his pride, shut up together as with a close seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. They are joined one together, one to another. They stick together that they cannot be sundered. By his neesings a light doth shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Out of his mouth go burning lamps, and sparks of fire leap out. Out of his nostrils goeth smoke as out of a seething pot or cauldron. This is a fire-breathing dragon. Okay? And you look at these cultures like the Mayan and the Incas and the Aztecs and all, Quetzalcoatl, the serpent god, the plumed serpent that shows up every so often. I mean, you got these things are real. They're real entities. They're not metaphors. And as long as you think that, see, that's part of deception, is that you think that these things ain't real, so you just shrug them off. The whole time, they're attacking you, like Paul was talking about there in Ephesians chapter 6. That we're warring against them things. And if you ain't aware of them, if you just discount them as being a metaphor, then they're going to have you. They're going to come after you, and they're going to get you. They're going to defeat you. The only way that you can stand up against them is to be armored up and be full of the Ruach HaKodesh. That's the only way that you're going to be able to stand against them, and that, and you rebuke them. You call on the Father to rebuke them. Because we're not, the ones that Christ gave them power to rebuke were demonic entities. The offspring of these fallen ones. And their leader is Beelzebub, the chief of the demons. Beelzebub is the chief of the demons. Okay? And so they're real too. And they were in Acts. They were casting them out. Christ cast them out. His disciples cast them out. And when they tried, there was people that tried to cast them out. That priest and his sons, they went over trying to cast them out in the name of Yahushua. And they ripped their clothes off and Yahushua I know, Paul I know, but who are you? And beat the tar out of them. Because these demonic entities, when they indwell people, they have incredible strength. Because they're the spirits of these fallen Nephilim giants. So, they impart great strength to these people. Then, Job chapter 1. Job chapter 1. And it talks about, says, this is verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of Elohim came to present themselves before Yahuwah, and Satan came also among them. And Yahuwah said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered Yahuwah and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And Yahuwah said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth Elohim and escheweth evil? Then Satan answered Yahuwah and said, Doth Job fear Elohim for naught? Hath not thou made an hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he hath? On every side thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in his land. But put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee. So, this is Job's carnal mind saying this. This is the carnal mind that is up there standing before Elohim saying, before Yahuwah Elohim, making this statement. It's just a carnal mind. I've got, like I say, I've got scripture after scripture. All these are scriptures here about the term Satan, the dragon, the serpent, the devil. Just on the word Satan alone, there's probably 40 or 50 different scriptures. Really way more than that. I just picked out some of them. Like in 1 Chronicles. First Chronicles chapter 1 verse 1. This is laying out, let's see, is it First Chronicles, Second Chronicles? Let me make sure I get the right one here. This is laying out the descendants here, and how that different ones got deceived by Baal, and how Nimrod began to be a mighty man upon the earth. It's alluding to that as well. But Job 1:6, 1:12, 2:17. When you go back to Job there, 2:7 says, This is when he comes there and, because Job didn't cuss God, and see, it says, and again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before Yahweh, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. I mean, this is in chapter 2. He's coming there again because Job had everything taken from him, and yet he still didn't curse God or curse Elohim. And so, Satan's coming there basically saying, well, afflict him, because he hadn't afflicted him physically. He just took his material wealth. But you can see that how can this be a metaphor for the carnal mind? I mean, when these is presenting them as, the sons of God, okay, and you can go look in Job 38. I mean, that they are. Where were you? Whenever it says, where were you? Where was the foundations? This is who hath laid the measures thereof, if thou knewest, and who hath stretched the line upon it? Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone thereof, when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? So, who are they? Who are these morning stars? Who are these sons of God? Just metaphors? I mean, and then go back here to Genesis. Genesis chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3, verse 1 and 2. Now the serpent was more subtile than any beast of the field which Yahweh Elohim had made. And I believe this serpent here is talking about is this fellow right here, this Yaldabaoth. I believe that's who it's talking about. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit. So her carnal mind is speaking to her, telling her this. And one of the things they pointed out was where Elohim says, I create the evil and I create the good. Well, that's only obvious, because if he created everything, then that would mean that these entities that do evil, he created them too, didn't he? And he also will send people to do evil. I mean, we can look at, I think it's in Kings, maybe in Chronicles, where Ahab and it was the king of Judah. They were going to go up to Ramoth Gilead and fight against the I think the Assyrians or something. And Ahab had all these advisors, because the king of Judah wanted his prophet or seer to come, and Ahab says, I don't want him to come here and prophesy, because he always prophesies evil against me. And so he came. Well, he did. He told him, surely, so, oh, you want me to prophesy good to you and tell you a lie, And he said, well, I'm not, And he said, see, I told you, he's always prophesying evil. He never prophesied good toward me, just always evil. And they locked him up. Well, Yahweh said, who will go up to Ramoth Gilead and be, a liar in the mouth of his prophets, or go up and lead Ahab to his death. And the spirit came up and said, I'll go. And he says, how so? I'll be a lying spirit in the mouth of his prophets. So he said, go ahead and do it. So he told this evil spirit to go down there and be a liar in the mouth of these prophets. To tell Ahab, oh yeah, everything's going to go great, man. You're going to have a big victory. And he went so far as to disguise himself as just being a regular person, a soldier or whatever. And he got the king of Judah to wear his regal regalia and all that. And they were going to go and try to kill the king of Judah, but they recognized that he was not Ahab. And so just by chance, somebody fired a shot and it hit him and killed him. Between the shoulder blades or something. But he does create the good and the evil. I mean, there's no doubt that, he created everything, so that would include the evil too. But there are these entities that have rebelled against him. Of course, I got an acquaintance that I talk with, and me and him go around and around with stuff. But he says he's not a Gnostic. Oh no, I'm not Gnostic, but everything he says is all same kind of stuff that these Gnostics, that are coming on here and leaving comments. But you see, the thing about Gnosticism is that they use the gnosis in their name or whatever, but it may be knowledge, but like I said, there's different kinds of knowledge. There's this esoteric, mystical kind of knowledge, and they were talking about too, like somebody come on there about Sophia. Okay, Sophia is the queen of heaven that you read about in the scriptures. She goes by the BVM, Diana, Ishtar, Astarte, Ashtaroth, name, many different names. Just like Nimrod, Baal, Apollo, Orion, Osiris, Orion, you go on and on and on. Same entity, she goes by Semiramis. So same entity, just they in different language, different name. Out of many, one. And you can, and of course these Nephilim, offspring, seed of the serpent. And that's exactly what they are. And of course we can look at that too. I told you that the Nakash, the serpent, in Hebrew 5175, I looked at that, 8577, which is, now this is just talking about 8577, and the Tanim, I talked about that, the jack, the serpent or monster of the deep, talking about Leviathan. Also dragon goes, it's also where you get the word dragon. Then you got the Seraph, 83. Where I had there 83, 14. What the definition of it is a six-winged being. Fiery serpent, seraphim. And there's seraphim, there's cherubim, there's ophanim, there are stoichions, there's luminaries, there's watchers, there's all these different classes of beings. But you're gonna have these people tell you that that they don't exist, that they're they're just adversaries. Satan's are. That's what it means. Satan means adversary, and that's exactly what they are. They're opposed to us. They want us destroyed, and they. Because we do already have corrupted minds, they play on that. And they're used for that purpose. Even though Elohim created them and they rebelled, he uses them. He uses them as a way to test us and to try us. So, I mean, and like I say, you got all these, like here in Luke chapter 10 and 18. Let's see, Luke chapter 10. Let me get back here. Luke chapter 10, verse 18. And this is after Christ had sent out the 70. This, the disciples and these other people that had been converted. He sent them out, and they come back, with joy, saying, Adon or Adonai, because that's what the Lord with the small letters, the Lord in the Old Testament with all capital letters is the Tetragrammaton, Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. In the New Testament, it's capital L, but with smaller, lowercase letters, O-R-D. It is Adon or Adonai. It says, even the devils are subject unto us through thy name. And he said unto them, I beheld that Hasatan as lightning fall from heaven. And he says, behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall be by any means hurt you. So he's given them the power, because he saw the Satan, Satan, saw his fall. Now, some people try to say that's Lucifer, but it's not Lucifer, because we've done a study on that. Lucifer's Hillel ben Shahar. He's this, he's the offspring of one of these, probably the one that deceived Eve. Okay, but over and again, you're seeing where it's saying that these are literal entities. Romans, let's see. I think I had Romans 8:33 or something here. Let's see. Romans 8:33. Who shall lay anything to the charge of Elohim's elect? It is Elohim who justifieth. Okay, and so what it's talking about right there is this the accuser that's up there accusing us day and night, and it's saying here, who shall lay any charge against us, because we have an advocate in the Messiah. He's our advocate, and he defends us in front of the throne of Yahweh. Then you have Zechariah chapter 3. I didn't really mark it, but I tried to, but I had so many of them. Zechariah chapter 3 and verse 1 and 2. And he showed me Joshua the high priest standing before the angel of Yahweh, and Satan standing at his right hand to resist him, or to be his adversary. Okay? And Yahweh said unto Satan, Yahweh rebuke thee, O Satan, even Yahweh that has chosen Jerusalem rebuke thee. Is not this a brand plucked out of the fire? So, you can see where this entity, this accuser, this adversary is being rebuked. Of course, that's just his carnal mind being rebuked. So, he's standing there at his, side there, accusing him. It's like he's got him up in front of a judge up here, and he's saying, you see what he did? But that's not true. It's just a metaphor. Just another metaphor. 24. I mean, you can go in here, and I've read this before. So take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ. They'll, in other words, they're going to say he is Christ. I mean, you can go to many churches and they'll get in and say, oh yeah, Yahushua was Christ. But they are leading people to their destruction. And it's the same with this Gnosticism. It's just the same old Babylonian religion. That old time religion. That's exactly what that old time religion is. Is the Babylonian mystery religion. Why is it a mystery? Because it is so spread out among so many different belief systems and sects and all, but there's little elements of it in all of them. And it really boiled down to Gnosticism, the Gnostic gospel. And there's nothing wrong with knowledge, folks. I mean, in this, and they emphasize, well, the New Testament Greek, gnosis is all throughout there. Well, sure it is, because it talks about knowledge in there. But knowledge without wisdom is worthless. And the wrong kind of knowledge is destructive. In other words, it will lead you to destruction. And the true knowledge is right here. And the teachings of people like Simon Magus, the sorcerer, what's his name? Zeddy, Eliphas Levi. The teachings of the Kabbalah and the Talmud and the Zohar and all, the Vedas and the Buddha text, Pradhyana or whatever they are. Because Buddha was not Chinese. He was Indian. He was, and he had been Hindu. And he lived in northeastern, over in northeastern India, over near the Himalayas, over near where Tibet and all is. And you got Tibetan Buddhism, and then you've got Hindu or Indian Buddhism, and then you got Chinese Buddhism, but they all are roughly the same, and you got reincarnation, which is Hindu, but you see how it incorporates elements of Hinduism into it. And when you go look at the 8 tenets or the 8 things of Buddhism, or 9 things or whatever, then they have other religious things kind of added into them. And you can see, like I say, you can go look at all these religions. I mean, I've got kind of just a little short list here, but New Age, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, Catholicism, Catholicism, Gnosticism, Scythian Gnosticism, all secret societies, Ebionites, they deny the deity of Messiah, and androgynous God, that is a male and a female and got itself pregnant and created these demigods, these lesser gods like Yahweh and Elohim, and this Yaldabaoth. I mean, and then the height of abomination and blasphemy, Barbello, the feminine ruach, when the scriptures clearly tells us that it's a he. It is not a female. And let's see, John 1:32, 33. Let's see. Chapter 1, John chapter 1, verse 33. 32 and 33. And John bare record, saying, I saw the Spirit descending from heaven like a dove, and it abode upon him. And I knew him not, but he that sent me to baptize with water, the same said unto me, Upon whom thou shalt see the Spirit descending and remaining on him, the same is he which baptizes with the Ruach HaKodesh. And I saw and bear record that this is the Son of Elohim. So, and that's why Christ, whenever he was getting ready, he said, look, I've got to go so that the Ruach, so that he, the Comforter, can come. And he shall teach you all things and lead you to truth. And over and again, he is described in the masculine, not in the feminine. And this Barbello is the same entity as this Queen of Heaven and this Sophia. I mean, this is, again, all these different names, be called Ishtar, Astarte, Diana of the Ephesians. I mean, and so the people that practice this stuff, that assume this stuff to it, to me that's blasphemy. I mean, that borders on the unpardonable sin, is attributing femininity to the masculine, the Ruach. And so I guess the Ruach is a metaphor. But yet, here, he descended onto the Messiah like a dove. And then you have, all throughout here in the Gospel of John, because I said that the Gospel of John is the book on the deity of the Messiah. Chapter 4, verse 23 and 24. But the hour cometh, now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father seeketh such to worship him. Elohim is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. And of course, you can go back and look at some of my previous videos. I've talked about that Elohim is a spirit. I've never said that he wasn't, but that spirit is manifested in three entities. So, and in the epistle, first epistle of John, it even tells us in that these three bear witness in heaven: the Father, the Son, and the Ruach. These three are one. Okay, and so then you have chapter 6, verse 63. Over here it says, it is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. But there are some of you that believe not. For Yahushua knew from the beginning who they were that believed not, and who should betray him. And he said, therefore said I unto you, that no man can come unto me, except it were given unto him of my Father. And of course, it says, from that time many of his disciples went back and walked no more with him. Then said Yahushua unto the 12, will you also go away? Jesus answered him, have not I chosen you 12, and one of you is a devil? He was indwelled, because it tells us there, let's see, 739. And this is still talking about the Ruach, but This spake he of the Spirit, which they that believe on him should receive. For the Ruach HaKodesh was not yet given, because that Christ was not yet glorified. Many of the people, therefore, when they heard this saying, said, of a truth, this is the prophet. See, because, until he ascended, the Ruach, was on him. And then whenever he went back up to where he came from, where I read there in the Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 1 through 14. And he went back to where he came from. And then the Ruach was, came and began to indwell people. And so that's what he was talking about there, that until he ascended up, that he would not leave off of him. And because he was the fullness of Elohim bodily. All of it. Let's see, 14, 16. 14, 16. And I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever. For the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it seeth him not, neither knoweth him, but ye know him, for he dwelleth with you, and shall be in you. I will not leave you comfortless, I will come to you. Yet a little while, and the world seeth me no more, but ye see me, because I live. Ye shall live also. At that day ye shall know that I am in the Father, and ye in me, and I in you. He that keep my commandments and keepeth them, he that hath my commandments and keepeth them, he it is that loveth me, and he that loveth me shall be loved of my Father, and I will love him, and will manifest myself to him. And then 14:21, which I just read, 14:16 and 14:21, 15:26. But when the Comforter is come, who I will send unto you from the Father, even the Spirit of truth, which proceedeth from the Father, he shall testify. He shall testify of me. And ye also shall bear witness, because you have been with me from the beginning. So the Ruach is a he. It's not a barbello. Let's see, and then 16:7. Nevertheless, I tell you the truth. It is expedient for you that I go away. For if I go not away, the Comforter will not come unto you. But if I depart, I will send him unto you. And so these Gnostic people, they teach, and these Hebrew roots people and all that stuff, they're teaching that barbello is the Ruach HaKodesh, and that it's the feminine, and that's a part of their teaching. And then you have another aspect of it too that they teach. And of course, this is, I think, from the second book of Enoch, which I do not read, but Metatron. That this entity Metatron, and that is, part of the Judaism, or the Kabbalah, Zohar, Talmud, Judaism. They all, again, they sects of Judaism. Some of them that still, read and study the Torah and stuff like that, and the Tanakh. But then these ones here, these ones that are, and where this come from is, it had already been there from when they were in captivity over there in Babylon and in Medo-Persia. And so they gathered up some of that teaching that was over there. But also, after the temple was destroyed, they basically reconfigured and recommissioned their belief system around a works-based system that, really got away from the Tanakh and started coming up basically, and they already were on their way anyway because they were teaching for doctrine, the doctrines of men and the traditions of men. And the traditions that it was talking about was these traditions that came with them back from Babel and back from over there, or from Babylon and from over there in Medo-Persia, Zoroastrianism, and then that Kabbalah and stuff, and the Zohar. When you go looking into that stuff, I mean, you find that it really all is the same stuff. And I mean, like I said, you got New Age, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, Catholicism, Gnosticism, Scythian Gnosticism, and the origins of all of them are Mesopotamia, Babylon. And that's why there in Revelations it calls it Mystery Babylon. And of course, religions are always depicted as a female. Because whenever the Father says, yeah, you go a-whoring after these gods, they're gods, Baal and Ashtaroth and Moloch and Dagon and, first one and then another, and that, you play the harlot. And of course, the daughters of this religion is all of these false religions, including Protestantism. Because the Protestantism, is just a spinoff of Catholics, and so is Islam. And, and that, like I say, that coexists. You got a lot of going on behind the scenes that, that ain't out in the public so much, of them trying to do just that. Trying to unite all of these religions through the World Council of Churches. I think there's something like 1,500 different types of denominationals and religions that are part of that. So, kind of self-evident to me, but and of course, if you want to discount these entities and say they don't exist and all that, that's your choice, but I think you do at your own peril, because they, they're in 2 Peter. That was something I wanted to read too. In 2 Peter, where he, here we go, let's see, it was 2 Peter, where did that wrote down at? Around here. Let's see, 2 Peter 2. All right. Now, listen to this here. But there were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, who privily shall bring in damnable heresies, even denying the Adon that bought them, and bring upon themselves swift destruction. And many shall follow their pernicious ways, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of. And through covetousness shall they with vain words make merchandise of you, whose judgment now of a long time lingereth not, and their damnation slumbereth not. For if Elohim spared not the angels that sinned, but cast him down to hell, or to Tartarus, the word there is not hell, it's Tartarus, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment. Now, I guess that's a metaphor, because it's the same thing that Jude was talking about there in the book of Jude. These same angels that left their first estate, it says, and spared not the old world, but saved Noah, the eighth person, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly, and turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemned them with an overthrow, making them an example unto those that after should live ungodly, and delivered just Lot, vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked. For that righteous man dwelling among them, and seeing and hearing, vexed his righteous soul from day to day with their unlawful deeds. Yahweh knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptations, and to reserve the unjust unto the day of judgment to be punished. But chiefly them that walk after the flesh in the lust of uncleanness, and despise government, presumptuous, government is talking about dominion. They despise dominion. And presumptuous are they, self-willed. They are not afraid to speak evil of dignities. And when it's talking about dignities, it's talking about not just human dignities. It's talking about, like there in Jude where it says, Michael, when he contended with Satan, with the devil, he did not bring any railing accusation against him. He just said, Yahuwah rebuke you. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to rebuke them in the name of Yahuwah. We're not supposed to rail against these entities or against these people that are in authority over us. Because ultimately, Yahuwah has the say over who's in authority over us. I mean, if you don't believe that, then go read in Daniel chapter 4 about what happened to Nebuchadnezzar when he got puffed up. He found out who decides who rules and reigns. It says, whereas angels, which are greater in power and might, bring not railing accusations against them before Yahweh. In other words, talking about these dignitaries, these following stuff, he don't bring, the angels themselves don't bring railing accusations against these entities. But they just say, Yahweh rebuke you. But these is natural brute beasts, made to be taken and destroyed, speak evil of the things that they understand not, and shall utterly perish in their own corruption. And of course, it's talking about people too, that are railing and making accusations against these deities and all that kind of stuff. And shall receive the reward of unrighteousness, as they that count it pleasure to riot in the daytime. Spots there are, and blemishes, sporting themselves with their own deceivings while they feast with you, having eyes full of adultery, and that cannot cease from sin, beguiling unstable souls, and heart they have exercised with covetous practices, cursed children, which have forsaken the right way and are gone astray, following the way of Balaam, the son of Besor, who loved the wages of unrighteousness, but was rebuked for his iniquity. The dumb ass speaking with man's voice forbade the madness of the prophet. And of course, I believe that was one of the things that Balaam was doing, was he was going around teaching false stuff. And he was going there to teach Balak how to cast a curse, or to curse the children of Israel. But he couldn't do it. Every time he'd open his mouth to curse them, he would bless them. So he went there and taught him how to cast a stumbling block. He just showed, take your women and doll them all up and send them over there, to beguile them, sexually or whatever, make them, lust after them. And that's what they did. But you can see here where Peter's saying the same thing about these, and these false prophets and teachers that are denying, they just want to make everything an allegory, or similitude. I mean, none of it's, literal. Well, I don't know where you would cast these entities down to Tartarus if they're not real. And of course, the word Satan just means adversary. I mean, you can go, I've got that. I think I've got that marked in here in the in the concordance. Let's see. Back here. All right. Yes, 7854. Right here. 7854. Hasatan. Adversary. Accuser. One who opposes. Slanderer as a proper name. Satan. The spirit being who is an opponent of Elohim and slanderer of his creation. Again, I think that this is a representation right here of that entity. Same with the wings there, the serpent going around, and the lion-headed body, that Yaldabaoth. Yeah. Just another name for the same entity. And so, you know, and you can look at it also in the Greek. Over here in the Greek, I think it's Diablos or something, you know. Let's see, 4567. $45.67. Well, it's Satanus, Satan, hostile opponent. I mean, in the Greek, it's a hostile opponent, somebody that's opposed to you. I mean, Santanas. So, you know, there you have it in the Greek as well. And then the dragon, I mean, there's a couple of different ones for that. 8577 in the Hebrew. Yep, and I had said that earlier, Tanim, but and in the Greek, the serpent, Nakash, is 3789. Let's see, what was that? That was something else. 3789. $37.89. Ophis, snake or serpent. Serpents, and that's Ophis. But that's the Greek definition of it there. And then of course Satan. I read that one, 7854. You know, the adversary, and of course the knowledge. There's a bunch of them. I mean, in the Greek, you know, the 56, and that I read that one about the number 56, which is agnostic. I mean, it's the agnosia, which is where you get ignorance with a focus on talk or action that opposes Elohim. ignorance, not knowledge. And that is opposed to, but it's also where you get agnostic. I mean, people that are ignorant about God and don't know one way or the other. And then you have 1108. Let's see, 1108. And I think this is gnosis. 1108. Yeah, gnosis, knowledge. And of course the Gnostics say, "Oh, that's what it means." Gnosticism, Gnostic, well, just knowledge. Yeah, well, what kind of knowledge? Okay, and I just got to telling you it's esoteric, mystical, secret, and it's the same kind of stuff that you hear, in the, Manly P. Hall, the greatest philosopher of Freemasonry, and Albert Pike, Morals and Dogma, Aleister Crowley, and the Golden Dawn, and Thelema, the OTO, all these secret societies. I mean, it's the same kind of stuff. Same kind of stuff. And so, I mean, and that's why, I've mentioned a lot of these different things, because you really need to go and, you can look these up here, like I say, on YouTube. You can go Google it and go to Wiki. Because stuff like this here ain't going to be like, when they're doing stuff, medical stuff, where they're going to, lie to you and put false information in there and stuff. No, this is just, you can even go to, you don't have to go to Wiki. You can go to Encyclopedia Britannica or World Book, or, you can go look a lot. You can even go probably find, the books themselves that a lot of stuff come out. But I try to stay away from that stuff. I mean, like Morals and Dogma, and, the writings of Aleister Crowley and Madame Blavatsky, and, but you'll find out if you start digging in on these people, and you can go down a really deep rabbit hole with a bunch of trails and a bunch of tunnels. I can tell you that, because, I mean, I've been on this all week, and I just scratched the surface. But I, and I may even do another one next week, because, I mean, I've already done gone pretty long on here. I mean, an hour and 40 minutes, and I ain't even broke the surface on it. But I wanted to, preface what I'm saying with showing what the definitions of these words are, and where to look, here in the Hebrew dictionary, what there's other ones here. Let's see, that was 1922. Let's look at 4907. 4907. I think that's back here. I think I had it marked. 4907. Synesis, understanding, insight, intelligence, the faculty of comprehension, often referring to wisdom and insight in spiritual matters. Understand, and that is, even though they use the word gnosis, when you go look up, because, I mean, I've got scriptures here where those are, are being, those words are being used there, but this 4907 appears a lot in the New Testament. And this synesis, and that is the true knowledge. But, no knowledge is worth anything without wisdom to apply it. Wisdom is the ability to take knowledge and apply it in the right way. But when you, like I just read there in 2 Peter, when you twist this stuff to your own, where he was talking about, I didn't read that, but Paul, he was talking about Paul's writings, that they were hard for people to understand sometimes, and they were twisting his words to their own destruction. And so, in a lot of these teachings here, like in there, they try to attribute, some of the more modern scholarship on this stuff, try to, say that really Simon Magus was just a type of Paul, and that the Gospels or the epistles of Paul were rewritten to say what they say now, because the ones that he had in there was Gnostic, the original, which is malarkey. And so, and if you ain't careful with this stuff, you know, I mean, going and digging into it and all that, you will, you know, you got to discern the spirit. You got to pray for discernment, to discern the truth of what this says, what this word here says. You know, sola scriptura. This right here. And you've got to study it, pray over it, and pray for discernment. Because the closer we come to the end, the greater the deception is going to get. It ain't going to get any easier. It's going to only get worse. And, you know, and this stuff, I'm seeing it like these, you know, and these people, they follow this stuff. They, you know, this androgynous being, this thing right here, they're popping up all over America. That ought to tell you something. And the proliferation of this Gnostic teaching everywhere. I mean, it's just sprouting up everywhere. And you know, and there's even, you know, the even though that what's his name, Eliphas, Levi, he put this out there back, you know, a couple hundred years ago, that he's the one that drew this picture here. It was revealed to him. But it's an androgynous entity, you know, a hermaphrodite. And, you know, and it's in the Freemason and Illuminatus. I mean, the Illuminati, the Enlightenment. I mean, that's all this stuff, you know, goes hand in hand. You know, the period, the period of enlightenment, going back to the early founding of this country. You know, that's why they were all, you know, and it says, and the Gnostics, here it is, it says, well known how holy this figure was considered, and that the Gnostics had much in common with the Pythagoreans from the prayers which the soul shall recite according to that. So the Gnostics, they follow that. You know, I mean, and, you know, the Freemasons, all these secret organizations, their secret knowledge, their mystical knowledge, you know, come out of caves, written by some guru that had a vision in a cave or something like that somewhere. This is all out in the open. This is all out in the open here. It's all there for anybody that wants it. And so, you know, I just wanted to address this. You people are free. You know, I'm not, you know, I ain't got no lock on you. I don't even know who you folks are that watch this channel. It's like I told him, hey, if, you know, if I'm so deluded, you know, if I believe that this, you know, is anything other than a bunch of similes and you know, similitudes and you know, that kind of stuff, that then I'm a complete moron. Okay, well, if they believe that, that I'm a moron and I don't know nothing, that I'm, deluded, that, well, they know why I watch my channel. Why watch what I put out here? Well, I'll tell you why. They want to try to convince me that way I'm thinking is wrong. This is the way, and that's the way that Hasatan works. I don't exist. But if it don't exist, why do they have these entities as, like this? Why do they have these? Why do they follow these? Why do they believe that that is the true way, and what this says is the wrong way? That's the evil God, Yahweh, Yahuwah. That's the evil God, Elohim. They evil. They want to destroy. They want to make your life miserable, but the one that's the true one is the one that wanted to give Eve the knowledge and all that stuff. The one there in Genesis chapter 3. They're telling you, these Gnostics and that's what they're telling you. They're telling you, the Yahuwah, the creator and all that. No, he's the evil God, and the one that's wanting to help you and give you knowledge and teach you stuff and all that stuff. He's the good God, he's the real one. That's what they want to convince you of. I mean, just like what, they're in Jude, they're in 2 Peter, they're in the book of Enoch. That's the reason I believe, like, Enoch is, he says there, matter of fact, let me pull that back up, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to read this, because I want y'all to understand this. Because I believe it's a book that was written for our time. That, back in the days, whenever they had it back, same just like they did the rest of the scriptures. But, all right. Now listen to what this says. Let's see. Chapter 1. The words of the blessing of Enoch, wherewith, this is chapter 1, verse 1, wherewith he blessed the elect and the righteous who will be living in the day of tribulation, who will, when all the wicked and godless are to be removed. And he took up his parable and said, Enoch, a righteous man whose eyes were opened by Elohim, saw the vision of the Holy One in the heavens, which the angels showed me, and from them I heard everything, and from then I understood as I saw, but not for this generation, but for a remote one, which is for to come. Concerning the elect I said, and took up my parable concerning them. And so, this was for a remote generation that was living in the day of great tribulation, when all the wicked and godless are to be removed. That's why a lot of the Christians don't like it, because it's, they're going to be there in tribulation, when the godless are going to be removed. Yeah, after the days, because Christ tells us there in Matthew 24, after the tribulation of those days, that's why, the preterists, they can't use this, because it's saying after the tribulation of those days that no flesh is going to be spared. It says, and immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now, that don't sound like no pre-tribulation stuff to me. That right there is telling you that immediately after the tribulation, because then comes the day of the Lord, the day of Yahuwah, when his wrath is fully poured out on unrepentant man. And these angels are going out to gather his people at the last trumpet with a great sound of a trumpet. So, and the stars shall fall from heaven. Oh yeah, Beetlejuice is coming. Man, we better tuck and run. No, these stars are not, great big balls of gas. They're entities. I mean, because that's when their days are done. Just where it talks about there in Revelation about Michael fighting the dragon and his, Michael and his angels fighting the dragon and his angels. That's what it's talking about. But anyway, I think I'm going to ease up there for a minute because I've done gone 2 hours here. And it's, there's just so much here. I mean, like I say, when you look at here, all these notes I've taken, I mean, and, front and back, and there's still a whole lot more I could go on, about the Prince of Persia that withstood Gabriel, and the only one that was able to contend with him was Michael. The only one that stood with Gabriel in this, this matter was, and this Prince of Persia was Hasatan, the Hasatan, that Johann, that's, Johann or whatever it is there, in Enoch, that one that led all the sons of God astray. I mean, and so, and he moves around. Because in Revelation there, and I think it's Revelation chapter 1, or, where he says, I know where where you're at. Your dwelling place is there where Satan dwells at. And I think it was Pergamos or somewhere where the seat of Satan was. He moves around. And then generally whoever is the power that be, that's where he's at. Like here in the United States. The world power. At least by appearance. Now, we don't know that is. I mean, it could be somewhere else. And we're just being given the illusion that we're the ones that are in power. Or the great world power. I mean, it's just so much deception and illusion. Who knows? But anyway, you're free to make a choice about what you want to believe. But I mean, when you look at what these people believe and what they're, put up as their gods and they're worshiping and, saying that the Elohim, Yahweh Elohim is the evil God, and that the serpent, this Yaldabaoth or whatever is, the true good God, just wants us to have knowledge. He just wants us to have gnosis. Yeah. And that's what's deceived all these people like Albert Pike and, Manly P. Hall and Lawrence Gardner and, Madame Blavatsky and Adolf Hitler and Goebbels and, all them people that were in the Vril and, and on, going back to, pretty much back to the beginning, once, back to the time whenever the Genesis 3 on forward, from the seed war, beginning of the seed war until, Genesis 6, when they came down here and began to, try to contaminate the genetic gene pool. And and they've been still fooling around and doing stuff, ever since. And reappearing and incursions, because it says they were, Nephilim in the land in those days, and also after that. They were after that during the time of Noah, and after that after the flood. And after that, now. They're still here. They're still around. Yeah, they've managed to make them to where they look more and more like us. Daniel chapter 2. And, when Christ talks about the evil one coming in the middle of the night and sowing the seeds among the wheat, sowing the tares among the wheat. Well, it's talking about these entities that are being sown among humans, and they'll mingle themselves together, but they won't cleave to one another. In other words, they won't have no affection or love for one another. So, as always, be good Bereans. You can listen, you hear what I got to say, with readiness of mind, but I don't expect you to believe anything I tell you. I want you to go do your own homework, do your own research, and you come to your own conclusions. That's not my place to tell you what to believe. All I'm doing is presenting you with what I believe, and what I believe the scriptures are saying, and what I'm seeing, when I look at the definitions of these words, they can mean different things to different people. And the same thing with when you look at all these different sources of Gnosticism, these different entities that they talk about, and you look at their etymology and their origins. Yeah. And then go, like I said, go look into all the, what they believe in New Age movement, and what they believe in Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, Catholicism, Gnosticism, Sethian Gnosticism, all these secret societies. The Rosicrucians, the Jesuits, the Freemasons, the Illuminati, the Order of the Snake, the Group of Rome. On and on and on. The Council on Foreign Relations. Look at how it's everywhere. It is everywhere and in everything. That's the reason, it says that we are not to be of the world. We're in the world, but not of the world, because the whole world has been wrapped up and taken over by it. Completely. And now you're going to start seeing this merger. You're already seeing it through the World Council of Churches. You go look up the World Council of Churches, and look at all these different religious organizations and stuff that's involved in it. Different belief systems, but yet we can coexist. No, you can't, because righteousness has got no fellowship with unrighteousness, and light with darkness. So do your homework. Be good Bereans. Follow 2 Timothy 2:15. That's what I want for you. I want you to receive what I got to say. And you can hear what them people's got to say. But you got to make a choice between the two of them, and which one you're going to believe and which one you're not going to believe. Because the difference is the difference between life and death. Okay? Eternal life and eternal death. There ain't no in between. There's no purgatory. There's none of that. Yeah, this is the test. This is the test of the emergency broadcast system. This is a matter of life and death. Right now, today. And that's why you see this stuff ramping up, man. It's becoming more and more and more being pumped out from every direction. And it's really coming down. It's the same thing. No matter which one of these you go listen to, same stuff. Same kind of stuff. That's why, they can merge together and, coexist. Because they're really all teaching and believing the same thing. No different. No different between them. And that's why, Peter, he saw right through Simon Magus, or Simon the sorcerer, or Simon the magician, and what he was doing. And it wasn't just that one instance there. This guy was all over the place, doing this. And I guarantee you, he was well versed in the Kabbalah and the Zohar and the Talmud, because those things have been around for a while. And those teachings, some of them was oral, but it came from over there in Babylon, and Medo-Persia. So, that's going back about 500 years before Christ, and what they call the intertestamental period in between the Old Testament and the New Testament is probably about 350, 400 years there, where there was nothing written about that period. You can find stuff that, there is some stuff like the Maccabees and stuff like that, where it talks about that period of time, like during the time of Antiochus and all that, but as far as in our scriptures, there's nothing in that. Pretty much all of that stuff that was from the time Daniel, pretty much, and the prophets had prophesied what was going to go on during that period of time, and they did. They didn't need to write about it because it happened. And you can go and see now. Look at historically, you can know that those things happened. So really wasn't nothing to be written about, but that's pretty much it. And so with that, I'm gonna call it a day. And I love you folks, and I hope that all of you will be blessed. I do this for that reason, because I love you. I don't want people to perish. I don't want them to be deceived. But all I can do is bring you what I believe to be the truth, what I believe has been revealed to me as the truth. Because that's all I want. I want truth. I don't want to be deceived. And I don't want anybody else to be deceived. That's why this guy's telling you, he deceives the whole world. We are deceived, by our own minds. Yeah, there is people that will be deceived, because some of the stuff that, that we think and all that is our own minds, our own thinking. I've said that, I've told you that before. We do have carnal minds. And a lot of what we, think evil and bad comes from our own, creation in our own minds. But these malevolent influences are out there. They're wanting to try to push you to actually do these things. Because they start in our minds, but they want to try to lure you out to do these things, to actually implement it. And that's why Christ said, that if you think about these things, you're committing sin. That's why because he wants us to try to nip it in the bud, stop it before it takes on a life. And you got some entities here that are attacking your mind, trying to get you to act on these things, and wanting you to take pleasure in these things and take pleasure in those who do these things. So, find out these things for yourself, and choose what you're going to, choose the path you're going to walk, because I can't choose it for you, and you're going to have to decide what you're going to believe. And and like I say, these voices are getting louder and louder and louder, and they're because they're beginning to dominate these airwaves, or whatever, the airwaves and the YouTube, and because I see a lot of it on there, and I just turn away from it. I don't listen to them. I don't have nothing. I don't want to hear nothing they got to say. So I may just you're just gonna have to do some of the research yourself. I named off the scriptures and all that stuff, and some of the sources and stuff. get you a concordance. You can go on there and get you one of them e-sword, e-Bible, or e-sword. I mean, it's got concordances, got all different kinds of Bible, so you can go look at different translations of these words and stuff like that. And there's also Brown. I think the Brown's Driver concordance, lexicons. I mean, all that kind of stuff available on there, where you can go look these words up for yourself and see where the origins and the etymology of them is, where they come from, how they've been used in the past, from a historical perspective, and learn about these entities or these concepts, and make up your own mind. So with that, I love you folks, and I hope you'll be blessed. I hope you have a good week, and I will see you again on the next Shabbat, if Yahuwah is willing.